Welcome to the first lesson in a series of lessons for the novel The Great Gatsby. In this lesson, we'll complete a pre-reading activity by studying and categorizing some of the novel covers that have been designed for various editions of the novel. This is the first of 3 pre-reading activities that you'll complete before we start with the actual reading of the novel. You'll need the handout giving instructions and the hard copies of the novel covers that will be handed out in the classroom. Write notes on the hard copies that you have of these covers. See if you can pick up themes and images that are repeated. Remember that you're going to have to sort these covers into logical groups. The original novel cover or book jacket is this one. It was designed by Francis Sugat and is regarded as one of the most famous book jackets ever used. The first cover of F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel, then, is this one from 1925. The painting is called Celestial Eyes. Fitzgerald took such a fancy to the artwork that he even wrote it into the book. Take note of the details, the dominant eyes, the tear. It's obviously the face of a woman. The sky is a midnight blue above what looks to be the lights of a fairground, a place associated with joy and happiness. What else do you notice? This cover is taken from a 1949 movie poster starring Alan Ladd in the title role. Take note of the setting, a swimming pool. The man in the foreground is shirtless, probably getting ready for a swim. The man behind, with a workman's cap, is holding a gun aimed at the swimmer. What do you think happened between these two men to cause this moment of conflict? Here's an old novel cover featuring a woman dressed in green. Do you see that the woman on the right is standing in the outline of a man's head? On the left, you should note the city skyscrapers, and the same woman appears as a green reflection in water. Who is she? What's the significance of the color green and the reflection? This is my favorite cover for the novel. It's in the Art Deco style of the 1920s. There is so much here to note. The green light at the top, the dancing figures, and the lone man silhouetted in the doorway. Pause a moment and take in the fabulous details here. Even the champagne glass outlines in the bottom corners of the cover. This moody and atmospheric black and white photograph is of 2 people in swimming costumes, which should remind you of the second cover, where you saw the shirtless man near the swimming pool. So obviously, pools or swimming is going to feature somehow. Here we have a yellow car. Yes, the color is important. Leaning against the car is a rather dapper man. Who is he? And who's the woman in the car? Where are they going? And where have they been? A rather modern design is seen here. As in the first cover that you looked at, here are crying eyes. The buildings should look vaguely familiar to you. New York skyscrapers? Or is part of the design the front bumper and headlights of a car? And what do you make of the 2 figures in black and white? Are they arm wrestling? That's definitely a visual depiction of some sort of conflict. A yellow cover like the color of the car on the 6th cover that you saw, with a simplified dollar sign, an internationally recognized symbol for money or wealth. I find the scattered letters of the name Gatsby an interesting feature on this cover. More eyes, this time wearing round spectacles. There's a green light and 2 men and a woman dressed for a night out. 2 men, 1 woman. Who are they? And is the man on the right, with the wine glass and cigar, looking at the couple? How would you describe the expression on his face? Is this a love triangle? This is quite an abstract depiction of a woman wearing a cloche, a hat fashionable in the 1920s. And the background? Is that a green light shining behind her? What do you think? This is an intriguing cover. An invisible man in a suit. Once you've read the novel, I hope that you'll come back to this cover and consider what it says about the main character, Gatsby. What do you think could be symbolized by an invisible man? Another yellow cover. Are you picking up a pattern here? This time with a single flower on it, a daisy. Do daisies have any symbolic significance? And if a girl is called Daisy, would you make any assumptions about her character? Here's a green light, a literal green light, a bulb. Once again, you are seeing that colors play a hugely significant role in this book. Did you notice the tiny figure in the bottom right-hand corner of the cover? It's a man, and he has lost his grip on the rope that ties him to the green light. He's falling away from the light. You'll learn that this is a powerful visual image of an important motif in the novel. This cover looks like an old-fashioned painting. What do you see? A woman sitting at the table. It looks to be dusk. What do you think she's feeling? She has a book in her hand, but she's not reading it. She looks lonely, or certainly alone. Her isolation is emphasized by her positioning on the cover. Look closely at the champagne cork that seems to be dropping down to the left of the champagne glass. Do you see it? It's not a cork at all. It's a car, a yellow car. The sky in the background is a splodge of ominous blackness, which appears to be totally at odds with the bright and cheerful party scene under the red and white umbrella. A green cover, a woman's face with the reflection of water in front of her. Compare this cover to the 3rd one that you looked at. Who is this woman? And what is the significance of all of this green on so many covers? This cover should strike you as very different to the previous ones. We have an invisible man again. You can see the disembodied trousers and top. This invisible man seems to be walking towards or across an egg. An egg? Yes, a pink egg. What on earth do you think an egg is doing on the novel cover? Here we have another cover that makes use of green and what looks like Freytag's pyramid on the cover, showing in words and arrows what seems to be the rise and fall of the Great Gatsby. On the left is an outline of a man. It should remind you of the silhouette of a man falling from the green light bulb on cover number 13. Is this one also a falling man? Or are his arms raised for another reason? Surrender, maybe? Oh my, another green light in a prominent position on a cover. It's got to be an important symbol. Also on this cover is a big signboard, like the ones we see on the road when we're traveling. Another eye shedding a tear into a wine glass. Yes, there's a lot of alcohol in this novel, and a lot of parties too. Why would you cry into a wine glass, do you think? And whose eye is that? A faceless man, reminiscent of the invisible man in a suit on cover 11 and on cover 17. Look closely at the man's hair and bow tie in this image. Do you see that they are made up of black and white pictures, all showing scenes from the so-called Roaring Twenties, the historical period in which this novel is set? And what color is his face? Yep, green. Colorful shirts make this a rather cheerful cover, until we remember that we are looking at yet another example of invisible men. Lots of shirts, but we can't see who wears them. When we read the novel, you'll remember this cover when we see the main character throw all of his tailor-made silk shirts around a woman, who promptly cries over them, saying that they are the most beautiful shirts she has ever seen. Another man without facial features, just a rather abstract swirl of colors on his face and hand. And could it be? Yep, another yellow car. By now you know that green lights and yellow cars are significant. Oh my, another faceless man, with the silhouette of a city skyline behind him. Who is this man? And why do many artists choose to portray him as a character without a clear identity? I think you're seeing a pattern here. A crying eye, but this time the tear is a dollar sign, and it's a green tear. Green. What are the connotations? Well, a greenback is a colloquial term for an American dollar. What else can you associate with the color green? Envy or jealousy, perhaps? See if you can think of other connotations. Eyes, and more tears and more green. Wait a moment, look at the lady's hair. Do you see that each part of the hair is the outline of a face? So above the black and white eyes, you have two side views of faces, both looking down over the crying woman. And that should remind you of cover number 9, when we saw two men, one watching the other as he was about to kiss a woman. More evidence of a love triangle, don't you think? This is a very simple design, and you have to look very closely to see that the letters of the title of the novel are made up from a dollar bill. So wealth, money, must play an important role in this novel, judging by the number of times that we've seen what seems to be rich people at play, and the dollar signs on other covers, like number 8 and number 25. This one is deliberately out of focus. We have a man dressed in a tuxedo, seemingly in pieces. Is he falling? Does this connect to the outlines of the men on covers 13 and 18? And if he's falling, where did he fall from? Are those books at the top? A library shelf, perhaps? What do you think has happened to this man? It's getting predictable now. Another faceless man with an abstract watery background behind him. We've seen water as an image before. Can you remember which covers? And what does water usually symbolize in literature? Cleansing, purity, a washing away of sins? I'm sure that you can think of others. Although you can't see it clearly, the woman's skirt and shoes are made of dollar bills. And there's that image of a falling man again, tethered to the woman by a string. She's obviously in control, a puppeteer, toying with this man. Two eggs. So cover 17 wasn't an aberration. Eggs must mean something in this novel. And eyes, so many eyes looking out at us from the covers. And the background here is yellow. I'm sure if it wasn't yellow, it would have been what color? Green. This is a gruesome picture. Look closely. It looks like a crime scene. In the chaos of the tangled limbs on the left, you should make out that there's more than one body lying there. Yes, there is green, but it's the red foot and the red hand on the right that get our attention. And are those blood trails with tire skid marks? This hints at violence in the novel, and you've already seen a cover with a man pointing a gun at another. Spoiler alert, there are 3 violent deaths in the novel. You'll have to decide who's responsible for each death. Another falling man, in a champagne glass this time. I don't know about you, but this looks like it could be a still from the opening titles of a James Bond movie. The suave man in a dinner suit, in a life and death situation. This cover uses the Art Deco style of the 1920s as a way to show the outline of a woman in a party dress. The black and gold is effective. It's obvious that this is a world of luxury. Who is she and why is she on her own? And did you make out the embossed shape of the car in the black background? Like cover number 5, this one makes use of the intrigue and atmosphere created by the use of a black and white photograph. Here, as in cover number 5, the character is facing away from the camera, looking over the water. And on the water is a yacht, a plaything of the rich and famous. More green, but this time in triangular shapes, with the smoke of a cigarette butt trailing upwards. Triangles, green. I immediately think of jealous lovers caught in a love triangle. What do you think of? Motorheads will immediately recognize the front grille and the emblem on the car. It's a Rolls-Royce. And the car is speeding towards someone who's about to be run over. And the lights are, no, not green, yellow. Who is the victim? Is this an accident? Or is the running over of this person deliberate? This one needs some close attention. The grey circle below the man is actually a map, and if it were clearer, you might recognize it as New York. The woman's face is obscured by a light, and in the background you'll see water and another light across the water. And even though here we see both man and woman on the same side of the water, there is a barrier between them. They are together, but they aren't. From another foreign edition of the novel, we have this cover. Look at the setting. It's a garage, a petrol station, or gas station as Americans would call it. There's a woman running out from the garage, and there are cars approaching from both sides. If she's not careful, she's going to get run over, isn't she? This picture smacks of wealth and privilege. Look at the mansion behind the man. Look at the way he's dressed. A dinner suit without the jacket. More details of rich and privileged lifestyles. The party people. There are streamers hanging from a balustrade. The women are dressed in 1920s flapper style. There's a fur coat draped over a chair. And is the gent on the left making moves on the lady dressed in blue, while the seated man looks on with an expression of, well, an expression of what on his face? A young woman is here. Her hair is bobbed in the fashion made so popular during the 1920s. Her eyes are closed. Deliberately, do you think? The title of the book seems to drift from her lips as though she's whispering The Great Gatsby to herself. Who is she, and what is her connection to The Great Gatsby? A green Rolls-Royce with a dancing couple as an emblem on the bonnet. Do you see the glimpses of the headlights in the bottom corners of the cover? Who would be dancing carefree while a car is speeding on? Another grim cover. This must be a corpse, with the blood pooling beneath the body. Well, I've already told you that 3 of the characters will die violent deaths. Which one is this? And how did he die? A gun must have killed at least one of the characters. We've seen a gun in another cover too, the second cover, which showed a man at a swimming pool while another points a gun at him. Here, the gun obscures this man's face, another way of portraying an invisible man. And do you see the dollar bill on the man's jacket front? And the lady's face in the bottom left-hand corner? This cover has a lot of detail. Spend time on it so that you don't miss any of the hidden clues. I think this is an excellent cover. The puppeteer symbol. And what is the man controlling? I see a bottle of alcohol, a car, a mansion, dollar notes. What do you see? Here's another one with a map. It's New York, Long Island Sound, the playground of the rich. There's a mansion in the distance, and a woman's face looking to the right in the top half of the cover. Green, a triangle. 2 faces blended, resulting in a rather disconcerting image of 3 eyes. The symbols used on the various covers shouldn't surprise you anymore. A man in an archway. Where is he? What's he looking at? The final cover. Another champagne glass. Is that a couple dancing on the left, while a man, or is it men, lie bleeding on the right? And who's holding the glass? It's sinister. The hand holding the glass seems to be in control. Phew, that's a lot of covers. You'll now go through them using your hard copies and sort them into logical groups, with no more than 5 covers in one group. I've given you some ideas for groups, but you should also think of your own. Make sure that you share your thoughts with your classmates as you place them, swapping ideas about what you think the novel will be about. Have fun. These video lessons are made to make the teaching and studying of The Great Gatsby a little easier for online lessons. Feel free to share them with your colleagues and friends. And yes, that is a green light, and yes, the man is stretching out his hand towards that light. We'll discover why this is such a powerful image in later lessons.